Hey, welcome everybody. Capt Ron here with my able team here. Our first officer, Dieter, and our additional captain, since it takes two of us at this age, right, Eric? Eric
Yes,
plus.
absolutely.
So anyway, welcome everybody. This is Fearless Flight Live. It's our weekly show for anybody who has a fear of flying. If you know somebody who has a fear of flying, or you just like to kind of eavesdrop on what the aviation industry is doing, at least to the extent that we're interested in it. So we're happy to have you tonight. And let me pull some slides up
And and guys, our flight attendant won't be joining us tonight. She's in transit,
okay. All right.
but
She's
she'll
making
be
money.
here next week.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope she deposits it into my checking account.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah. All right. So again, welcome.
Ron, we're seeing, we don't see the presentation, we see your notes.
Perfect. So, is that better?
Not yet.
Oh, for crying out loud.
So it's got to be on a different screen.
The wonders of technology. I bet you that works.
There we go.
Okay, welcome. Fearless Flight Live for this night, September 11th, a kind of a memorable day in the history of aviation as of 23 years ago. We'll touch on that just a little bit. And again, for anybody who's afraid to fly or who knows somebody who's afraid to fly, or if you're just interested in what's going on in the commercial aviation industry for the most part, we do have our Facebook group, Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather. If you're not a member, we highly encourage you to do that. Our Fearless Flight method involves 3 steps. That's 1 is to educate yourself. 2 is to learn how to disrupt and distract your thinking. And 3 is join a community. And we're very proud of the community that we have. And we encourage you, if you're not a member, to go ahead and join it. We have some benefits that go out to it's a free group, and we have some benefits that go out to the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather members exclusively. So if you want to get whatever those are, please consider joining it. Tonight, we have, it's the 9/11 anniversary, 23 years ago. And by the way, thanks for giving us the night off last night because of the debate. And welcome back tonight. I hope everybody came back. Special guest Martha Thomas. Martha was one of our VIP students, and she's going to share her experiences with us. We'll talk about the Air Hollywood class coming up because we want to get as many of you registered as possible over there. And as always, we have questions and comments. If you're like me and alive and had a pulse and you were around on 9/11, you certainly saw this image. First, the North Tower, and then the South Tower, I guess, in that order. That day, I had a Fear of Flying class scheduled for that evening at Sky Harbor Airport. And so I was not flying. Eric, were you flying that day?
No, I was at my parents' and friends' house in Des Moines, Iowa. So it was a few days before I could go back to Phoenix. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And any of you who were there live witnessed this, you remember that the networks, like they typically did, they showed it over and over and over. And then finally, someone made the decision to not do that because this traumatized not only people in the US, but the world. I mean, everybody, because we're kind of an information center being the United States. And it was, of course, just an unbelievable occurrence. I was involved in training as well. So when I got back, we didn't fly for 4 days completely. And when we got back and when I started getting back into recurrent classes again, I had flight attendants who were in New York during the attack. And they had some really compelling stories. Many of them had a little bit of PTSD from that. And it was kind of scary when they came back. I remember my first flight 4 days later, I had 4 people going from Phoenix to Des Moines. And it was an amazing thing. And that's what's kind of set what the airlines were planning on in the post-pandemic era. It took over a year for the traffic levels to get back to what they had been prior to 9/11. And that's what caught the airlines off guard because post-pandemic, people, when everybody kind of got the idea, they got the vaccines out and everything, people started coming back. They came back gangbusters, and that caught the airlines off guard. And we're still suffering from some of those shortages today with the crews. Airlines went to they offered a lot of early retirements and buyouts, and a lot of people went off the job, and then shortly thereafter, the airlines had to gear back up again. And if you lay somebody off today, a pilot, specifically a crew member, it takes 3 months if they come back in the door tomorrow to get them back up to speed. So it was very disruptive. And then here are some of the other footages that you may have known. One from each area, one from New York, a couple from New York, or one from New York, one from Washington, D.C., and one from Pennsylvania, where the only airline, the one airliner where the people on board heroically figured it out, and they were able to keep it from being flown into either New York or Washington, D.C. So it was quite a thing. When you went back to, when you got back, Eric, what was it like? How long did you have to wait to get back to Phoenix?
I fortunately, like I said, I had parents and friends there because it seemed like quite a while. I think it was better than a week.
Yeah.
Before I could even get back, and I was a junior captain, and on the 737, so I probably had a schedule, a line, but stuff probably got lifted off that like crazy. But I remember it took a while to get home. And
yeah.
And you remember your flight right after that, and I wish I did. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember crawling in the airplane the first time afterwards.
Yeah, I had always wanted to go back and greet everybody personally before we pushed, instead of sitting in my seat using the PA. And when I saw the 4 people back there, I thought that would be a good time to start, because
Sure.
if I fell on my face, nobody would remember it. And
Yeah.
so that's what I did. And I did that from then until the finish. And I really regretted that I hadn't done that earlier in my career, just to get
Yeah.
back and meet everybody. And at that time, I'd been doing this for about 14 years. And people, it was really refreshing to see people, and the flight attendants gave me a lot of feedback on how it just kind of cast a calmer tone over the loads in the back there. So
Sure.
anyway, yeah. So okay, well, we have our guest coming up here, and I'm going to call her in 1 second. This is a little video we did as we were on the airplane getting ready to push back. This is Martha Thomas. I'm going to play this, and you know what? First, I need to set up the.
She doesn't look very nervous right there, I gotta say.
I need to share the sound. Okay, we're optimized. So here we go. What you doing?
I'm flying to Los Angeles with Capt Ron, and it's gonna be a short flight, and I'll be conquering my fears together.
Yeah. Now why today?
Because I'm visiting daughters and granddaughters.
So
I need to go.
That's the payoff.
And I'll be flying back alone, and I'll be fine, because I'm listening to his audios.
And you've flown before,
Oh,
but you just
for 10 years, I
relax.
have to relax.
Yeah.
Now I'm back in.
Yeah. So courage.
Thanks to
first
Capt
off.
Ron. Yes, well, a little courage.
A lot of courage. All right. Well, let's just bring her on. Come on board, Martha. Welcome to Fearless Flight. If you can figure out how to make your video work again. Yay!
Okay.
There she is, Coverall. That's my favorite picture of you. That's the way we do the coaching calls. You get all comfy there. So, well,
Wow.
you've been just a really, really neat person to meet. As is the case, when I meet people, I get to know everything about them when we become friends, or at least that's my version of the story. So anyway, so it's nice to have you here, and you're a really interesting person. Again, as are many people, but you have an interesting life, and we're going to promote your book here at the end, because and I'll let you talk about that just a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your initial fear of flying, when you realized it, and so whatever history is relevant to that?
Okay, 30 years ago, I experienced clear air turbulence on a flight from Phoenix to St. Louis with my 2 small children. Prior to that, I really didn't even think twice about getting on a plane.
Sure.
I think it was a combination of, becoming a mother and having small children. And I had one of them, one child was 4 years old, the other was 2. The seatbelt sign was off. So we were safe to get up, and I took the 2-year-old. We were heading towards the bathroom.
Right.
And the plane dropped, boom. And I was down on the floor.
Did you get airborne, you know, and then hit the floor, or you
No,
just?
but I just remember I was crawling on the floor because the
Wow.
flight attendant back in the jump seat was motioning us to come to her and to get in the jump seat.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I don't know if I went up and down, but my memory is I'm crawling and
Yeah.
stuff is flying out
Sure.
of the galley.
Yeah.
So that was like 35 years ago, and I got over it, but I never had to fly a lot, just a couple of times a year to visit family. Then my kids grew up and moved to Los Angeles. Sorry, so I had to fly back and forth more often, and I was fine with that. I was never thrilled about being on a plane. I said a lot of prayers, but I had to go see people I loved.
Yeah.
And that was fine until 10 years ago. There were 2 horrible air disasters, which I know you remember. One was the German co-pilot that
Yep.
on purpose flew the plane into the Swiss Alps.
Yep.
And everybody on board was killed. And either right before or right after, the Indonesian jet fell into the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
And they've never found it. Well, those 2 things happened. So in my mind, I'm already an anxious person.
Right.
In my mind, the reptilian brain kicked in, and I no longer feel that it's safe to fly. So 10 years ago, I'm taking trains, and I absolutely hate it. And it's not fun to take a train from Flagstaff to Los Angeles.
Right.
So a friend of mine suggested Captain Ron, and I reached out to you because my daughter's wedding was coming up. And there's no way in heck I wanted to travel by plane or train to her wedding. So I contacted you, and my first email, you were so supportive and kind, telling me that I was brave to reach out and that I was not alone, that many people had the same issues. And you set me up with the harmonizer, and I listened to it diligently, probably 3 times a day. I read everything that you told me to read. And then you flew with me to Los Angeles. This was before the wedding.
Right.
It was my trial run. You flew with me, and then I had to come back alone, and I was fine. And I've been flying for 10 years to various places, to Hawaii, to all parts of the United States, doing well. And I had a trip. In fact, I even went to Europe last year, and I had a trip to Paris planned. I would have been there right now. And a month ago on my news feed was the news of an international flight that had severe turbulence, and 16 people were injured, some severely. Idiotically, I watched that. And again, my brain went into, I can't do this. I can't get on that plane. What if that happens to me? Oh my God. I went into a downward spiral. I canceled my trip to Paris. I felt terrible shame about it. And I thought, well, I just have to reach out to Captain Ron again. Okay, I had a relapse, is what I call it. I had a relapse.
Sure.
And you made me feel comfortable about that. And I did everything. I bought the whole package, the Fearless Flight kit. I also had Ron, this has been the most helpful, make me a personal audio that talks about some of my personal self-talk that isn't
Let me
healthy.
separate this just a little bit. So the harmonizer, can you describe for people what it is to you and what it does for you? Okay.
Yes, the harmonizer is just full of positive, wonderful messages.
Yeah.
About
It's an audio program that runs
it's an
32
audio
minutes. Yeah.
program, and there are 3 different people talking on it, maybe 4.
Or
And
actually, yeah.
so there's multiple things to listen to take your mind off of whatever negative thoughts you're having. And I listened to it faithfully 10 years ago. I started listening again. And one of the things that really got me on the harmonizer was this. At the end, if I think it's your voice, and you say, I am sick and tired of being afraid. These are only thoughts. Okay. I kept hearing that over and over in my mind. I'm sick and tired of this.
Yeah.
That's really a positive statement for me, because yes, I'm sick and tired of letting my fears dominate my life and tell me what to do. And I listened to it over and over again. There's many positive messages on there about how turbulence is nothing more than bumps in the road. It's not dangerous. The harmonizer really got me back on track until I got the personal audio file.
Yeah. And let me just interject that. So one of the things I've been wanting to do more harmonizer type audios with the multi-dimensional thing there and personalize it. And so it was about 6 months ago, I started toying with the idea of doing the coaching calls that I do. And now with the ability with Zoom to record it and now use some AI to transcribe it, made it much easier. Because if I had to transcribe it manually, oh my God, it'd take me a year to do each one of the calls. But because it's so automated now, what I decided was to test. And you're like the one of the first 3 people that I did this for. And what we did is we took a coaching session and then made this an add-on, and I said, okay, so we'll focus during the coaching session about personal messages and things that would be helpful to you, and then I'll try to customize it. So go ahead. So how's that been for you?
That's been wonderful, because Ron asked me, what are some of my personal statements, my self-talk that go through my mind when I'm beating myself up about my fear of flying.
And we call them negative cognitions. These are the things that you may or may not be acutely aware of that you say to yourself. And it's what we rehearse constantly when we're in a negative frame of mind. So
yeah. And so I wrote down for Ron in an email some of my negative cognitions, and he addressed those one by one in this personal audio file, which also has music and the sound of ocean waves, which is very relaxing for me. I just want to add too that one of the most important things that has been helpful to me at Ron's suggestion is talking to the pilots.
Yeah.
That's been a game changer for me. I did that on the way back from Los Angeles yesterday, and they are so happy I think they seem happy to talk to me.
They're lonely people.
They're lonely people. They're cute.
You remember the Maytag commercials when Maytag used to advertise that they were so maintenance free that the servicemen would get bored, So I think of that sometimes flying, because it is really, really routine and nothing happens. So there's probably some truth to that. I know myself, it's always fun to have somebody come up and talk to you. So
they seem they seem really excited about talking to me, and I always apologize. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry to bother you. And they're like, oh no, what's up? Tell us. I tell them my name and I say, well, is it going to be bumpy? No, this is going to be smooth, or there might be a few bumps when we, take off out of LA. It's going to be a beautiful flight. Anyway, that's been helpful.
Okay. So a question I had was when you came back from Phoenix without me, what was it like leading up to that? You know, where was your confidence in what? Because I try to tell people, you know, it just doesn't disappear overnight.
No.
You know, yeah.
I had a few moments, like I typically do before I fly, but I just kept listening over and over again to the audio file and the harmonizer. And the things that upset me, like many other people, is turbulence. And learning the facts about turbulence and how it's not dangerous. It's not going to make the plane fall out of the sky, which was one of my fears, that it's like bumps in the road and or hitting a pothole when you're driving or whatever. Just learning the facts has been very helpful for me. And I got on that plane and I'm ready. You know, it was great.
Yeah. And the tools and techniques, you talked about the harmonizer, you've talked about the custom visualization, guided visualization that I did. Anything else that you remember that was helpful? And yeah, I mean, you're such a good student. You're so diligent. You just, anything I could put out, you would read. So you're a great test basis for that. But is there anything that stands out beyond, you know, we did coaching, we did, you know, we talked about that.
I think another thing that stands out for me is the meditative, or what's the word I'm trying to say, of the breathing technique.
Okay. Okay.
Meditative isn't the right word. What's the word that you use?
Well, I call it just kind of mindful breathing.
Mindful breathing.
You know? Yeah. And there's a lot of, for people who meditate regularly, and I think you do meditate yourself, right?
Yeah.
As well. And I read this. I'm kind of I love pickleball. I'm in the pickleball era of my life now. So I like to exercise, but I've always been interested in my own personal health and things like that. And I started meditating about 30 years ago. And it's been in the last 10 years or so, I became familiar with something called heart rate variability. And in the literature, it talks about the heart rate variability is a real time, if you can, and you can measure it now with an app and a chest strap or some device to measure your pulse. And with that, you can now look at what happens between the beats in your heart. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in between that. If you know, anybody who's related to any of the medical profession knows that. And one of the things is this heart rate variability, this reading that you get on this one app that I have, it shows in real time that where your sympathetic nervous system is relative to your parasympathetic nervous system. So it's a real-time readout. I mean, in this instant, when you take the reading, it tells you whether you're more in the sympathetic or whether you're more in the parasympathetic. And what you want is harmony between them. So in the research that I read through on that, it talks about an optimal breathing rate, and that is in for 4 seconds and out for 6. So that's where that came from. That what I call rhythmic breathing or HRV breathing or stuff like that. And so I've worked that into some of the custom guided visualization that we did. But that's the background for that. And I've had people having panic attacks on the airplane do that, and within 2 or 3 cycles, which is only 30 seconds, they've been able to calm themselves down. Now, they didn't go from a 10 to a 0, you know, or a 10 to a 1, but they did go from a 10 to a 9, which is all we need. My experience is that's all you need when you feel yourself moving out of control. You just need to know that you can stop it and keep it from getting any worse. And that gives you enough confidence. And so anyway, well, I've talked way too much about that, but anyway.
You asked me in one of the things to talk about, one of the things that I do and that I have done for really several years until I had this setback was, as you know, I watched a movie. Whenever I fly, I distract myself with something that focuses my attention on something else besides my fears. And for me, that's helpful. And I just want to say, anybody out there, if I can do this, you can do it. And another thing, I have to learn self-compassion. That's something else Ron emphasizes, that, you know, have self-compassion. It's challenging for those of us that have these fears about flying, and you just have to be compassionate with yourself. And I listen to some self-compassion audios from a meditation site, and that's been helpful too, because I had a lot of shame about feeling shameful about having this fear. And
Sure.
I that many, what'd you say, 60 million people?
Yeah, at least who we'll never know because it's self-reported, but I really appreciate you saying that, because that's one of the first things when people do a 15-minute call, and I think we started with a 15-minute
Yes.
phone call. It's never 15 minutes, but that's
No.
my goal. But when we started, the first thing that I notice in most people is how harsh they are on themselves. And they do. We beat on ourselves, and sometimes it's one of those things that's on an unconscious level. We don't think about it all the time. But I tell people, you got to be kind to yourself, because it's just something that needs tweaking in us, and you can do that. So you've had a mindset shift both times. You do that, and part of it was being kinder to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And one of the things that to new learners, for someone who's listening right now and feels like they'll never be able to fly comfortably, what would you say to them? Did you feel that way? Did you feel like you'd never be able to fly comfortably?
Yes. 10 years ago, after those two disasters, yes. I felt like I could never fly comfortably until I reached out to you and found solutions. Yeah. And I knew that I wanted to be able to fly comfortably because the people that I love don't live where I live. And so that was my motivation. Yeah.
And I think that's key. It really takes a reason to fly, because frankly, unless you want to go someplace and invest in all that, you don't have to fly. We can just be landlubbers or drive cars or whatever all the time, but who wants to spend their time in the air when you can spend it with your granddaughters, right? I mean, that's amazing. So and was there any, I meant, once you got involved, you said, sick and tired of being sick and tired is the way I put it. And that's another key that I find with people who push forward and get better like this. Practice has practice been important for you?
Very, very.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I really take it seriously, and I don't know when my next flight is, but I don't know where I'm going next. But when I know that, I'll be practicing by listening to those audio files every day, 2 times a day, 3 times a day, and just getting that into my brain. Because practice is important for any kind of a behavioral change. Whether you're learning to play the piano or, learning to be able to fly comfortably. Practice makes perfect. I take it seriously.
Yeah, and that's something that I was not all that familiar with when I was invited to do this 37 years ago. I never connected. Yeah, I know I've always been athletic. I know if you practice athletics, you'll get better at it, but I never connected so much how thinking is a habit. And the way you change your thinking, which is what you ultimately have to do when you overcome your fear of flying, is you have to change the way you think, and and it's a habit. So you have to practice. And that's the thing that I think is the most probably frustrating on many levels for people, because who wants to do this when you're only going to fly once or twice a year or whatever, who wants to spend time sitting there listening to junk and stuff like that? But it really is essential. And you're living proof that if you do it on a level where you build some new skills and learn how to change the way you think, you can get it so that now you don't have to do that the rest of your life intently. You can get 2 or 3 weeks before your flight, and you can get back into that rhythm and get there. And I think that's what one of the things that I admire most about you and other people like you who have had the success that you have, is that you actually do the work. And it's corny, but it's really important. Was in fear of the unknown, was there a particular part of flying that triggered the most anxiety for you? And I think you've touched on that, if you want to add anything else. And it was that horrific experience being put on the floor.
Yeah, that one. Just fear of turbulence, probably for many people. I always got on a plane thinking, oh, I hope there's no turbulence. But now I have a better understanding because of your classes. I know the turbulence. Seriously, I didn't, as a person who's not a pilot, I didn't know what turbulence meant. I didn't understand that it's just normal, no big deal, that it's like bumps in the road or like
Yeah.
a boat going over choppy waves. And so that's taken the mystery out of it for me, understanding the turbulence is not dangerous. It's just
Yeah.
something that you have to go through and get to the other side.
And that's really key. And you say it's not dangerous. It really isn't, but it is terribly frightening when you don't, even when you know what's going on and stuff. Unless you fly regularly like Eric and I do, you don't get to that point where literally. I mean, and we have a startle response. We notice it. We're not brain dead, so we get elevated like you do as well. But our anxiety drops in a heartbeat when it's not present because we've just been through it so much. But you and other people like that, not so much. So I just want to commend you for doing that. So, and just maybe the last thing, how do you feel about future flights? How do you approach flying now differently than you did 10 years ago, for example?
Well, now I have tools. I have a toolbox, which I did not have 10 years ago. My toolbox is everything that I'm learning in the FearlessFlight kit and the audio files. That's my toolbox. So I'm not so, I feel like I've got something that can help me, and I have to practice a little bit, and I can use that going forward.
Yeah. And thanks. And you have a unique contribution here. I'm going to share this with people. You have a book. And I think it's on the screen. Back me up on that, Dieter, if you can.
It's on the screen, and I just posted the link to Amazon as well to the paperback.
Wow, thank you.
So, and this is, I'm going to volunteer. The proceeds from this go to a worthy cause that you've set up, and
Yes.
your background is a physical therapist. Just a little bit about why did you write this book?
I wrote this book because I talk about the patients that I cared for over my 40-year career. Of course, I changed the names, and how inspiring so many people were to me in my career. And also, I wrote the book because I enjoy reading true stories of, like, my life as a surgeon, my life as an ER nurse, my life as a whatever in the medical field. And I noticed there weren't any that addressed my life as a physical therapist. So I wanted people to know what unique things we have to learn, and that what we do as PTs. And even my own sister, who read my book, said, I didn't know that you had to do all those different kinds of patients, and that you had that training, and so on and so forth. So it was just a great fun project for me, reliving the experiences that I had in those 40 years, and to also let younger people know what a great career it is. It's a great career path.
Well, I just started it, and you shared some stories with me. It's fascinating, and you are one of my stories. And that's what I love. That's what draws me to this. It's everybody has their story. There are some common themes to people, what makes a difference, but everybody has their own unique way of living and dealing with things in their life. And so thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for being part of my life. I really mean that, Martha. You're an incredible person, a giving person, and I can only imagine what it would have been like to be one of your clients.
Thank you. Those are very kind words. And you haven't heard the last of me. I'm sure I'll have refresher phone calls with you for perhaps upcoming travel, and I just have my toolbox now to use going forward.
And I will look forward to that. So thanks a lot.
Okay.
feel free to, I'm just going to talk about do a little commercial here for trying to get people on. Feel free to tell them to get on that flight out of Burbank when we fly on October 26th and meet us in Air Hollywood, the studios over there. So anyway, thanks again for joining us here. And I'm going to just switch back to my slides briefly and talk
Bye.
about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Martha. Appreciate it. Yeah, there were a couple of questions about the
we gotta
Hollywood experience.
take the questions. Go ahead, Dieter.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Go with.
Oh.
I was just gonna lead into that people were asking about the Air Hollywood class. So.
Oh, okay. All right, great. All right. So this is our 301. This is before the pandemic. We would do 4 or 5 of these a year. We're still working to get back to where we have all these, and we have 2 of them coming up. One for people who live in the Los Angeles area or will be there on October 25th, because this is a special one because we get to go to the Air Hollywood studios, and this is the setting that we'll have. It's set up like an airport terminal, and we have a mock-up over there that we'll be using for our flight preparation. And so 2 things about that. So if you're in the LA area and you want to fly with us, you want to take advantage and come to this class as well. It's going to be on the Friday night up in Valencia prior to the next day when we'll fly out of the Burbank Bob Hope Airport over there. And we'll get together. We spend a couple hours answering questions, and we've got some fun exercises and activities that we do, and it's a great opportunity. If you live in that area and you are not going to fly, or you're not sure if you're going to fly, we invite you to join us anyway. And that's a part of this package here. And we are having a promotion, a special offer that makes this more affordable, and you get the best of Fearless Flight with the flight in there. So these are the 4 things you can see here. This is we'll call this our Air Hollywood edition. We're going to have a Phoenix flight on November 9th as well. We just do the part where we do the flight prep is going to be online, since we don't have the luxury of having the studio here. Okay, so if you look at this, there are 2 offers here. The one on the left is the flight class. It normally sells for $497. However, if you take advantage of this offer, and this is our special offer number 1, if you see up here at the top, we have our Clear for Takeoff 201 online course. That you get that normally sells for $397 all by itself. We have our monthly Fearless Flyer Club that it has differing levels, and we're going to invite you to participate at the $57 a month level. And then if you participate in this, you're going to get a coupon. So if you in fact want to fly with us out of the Burbank flight or out of Phoenix, you're going to get a $200 discount off of the normal $497. And I'll put this all together in just a minute. Okay, so go to the top here, the 201 online course. You get 60 days of unlimited access to that. That means when you get in there, you'll see there are 4 basic modules that form the foundation of this course. And they center around the psychology of fear of flying, the basics of flight, the tools and strategies and techniques, and then putting it all together. And there's a lot of supplemental material around that, including 10 hours of video. All right. Then because you are in the 201 course, you automatically get 60 days of unlimited access to our Fearless Flyer Club. And that includes benefits of its own, including our monthly live group coaching webinars. The next one coming up will be a week from tomorrow night, Thursday, September 19th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And I'll be repeating that now on the Saturday after this next Thursday. So it'll be the 19th and the 21st. So we'll have two unique coaching sessions if you want to participate. And at the end of the 60-day period, you will then be opted in to continue as a Fearless Flyer Club member for $57 a month. And we encourage you to do that. But if you decide that you don't need to go on or you don't want to go on, you can terminate that at that point, and you'll just have the 197 investment in there. The thing that does not show up here, which I'm going to go on to this next slide, okay, is one of the benefits of the Fearless Flyer Club at the $57 level is you get our Fearless Flight Kit for $197. That's the program that Martha was raving about before. I've had people back in the early days, 24 years ago, when I first came out with the Fearless Flight Kit, I've had people that do nothing but get that, and the harmonizer is just one of the 7 digital downloadable files in that now. I've had people do that solely as their only tool to get on an airplane and fly, and reported huge success to do that. So you get the online course, 60-day access for that, normally $397. You get 2 months of the Fearless Flyer Club access to that, normally for $114. You get the Fearless Flight Kit, which is normally $197. All of that comes to over $700. You're going to get the whole thing for $197. So if you just wanted to fly with us, you'd pay $497. So you're going to get it for $4, $5 cheaper and you're going to get all of the other collateral programs that we have here. Now, if you should decide that, I'm not too sure, and I'm going to do that right now, you can opt in at a lower level. And this is something called our Cleared for Takeoff 101. You're going to get 60 days access to that. This is our Student Resource Center. It has a lot of useful information in that. And you're going to still get 60-day access, 2 months of the Fearless Flyer Club, which normally sells that. And the biggest part is you're going to get the same $197 Fearless Flight Kit all together for $27. We really think that this is the best deal, but if we really value and encourage you, do something. If you do nothing, you're going to end up with the same results you did last time. And take Martha's word above mine even. If you do something, you can get over this. And it's not just a matter of being able to tolerate it. You can get to the point where you don't worry about flying anymore. You don't think about the airplane. They come with a 60-day guarantee, or a guaranteed satisfaction money back guarantee. We just ask that you finish the 201 course, because obviously if you don't try it, you're not going to get anything out of it. Okay, so please consider doing that. The flight is going to be I'm sorry, this is about the pre-flight that we're going to do in Air Hollywood, live stream only. If you want to just do that, if you live in East Snowshoe, what's
East
Wisconsin?
Overshoe, Wisconsin.
Overshoe. If you live in East Overshoe and you want to find out what do we talk about when we do the flight prep, you can subscribe for this live stream. And what is 97? It's in the fine print down here. Okay, so we really, really, really encourage you to do that. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate. I'm sure Dieter's put the links in the chat there.
They're in the comments. Yeah. Okay.
And then certainly if you take advantage of the special, you'll be eligible for the next 201 monthly group coaching webinar to happen next September 19th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And I got new down here because now I'm repeating that for those of you who live in the East Coast and just frankly don't want to stay up until late hours of the night. You can now join me on Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And here's the link for that. So whatever you do, please do something. Okay, you want to break the cycle, and we're going to talk about things that you can do to break that cycle on our next webinar. Okay. What else? Any other things that I've
First of
left
all,
out?
I want to make a quick shout out to Megan, who just successfully flew to Fresno. That's super, super awesome. And I hope to meet you in person at Air Hollywood. And then a big shout out also to John Iliev, who is in Germany right now and actually watching the show. And he'll be flying back over to stateside to Denver in just a couple of hours. So I'm looking forward to having John on one of our shows in the future as well.
And since you just happened to mention, here's a picture of Megan and her dad. Megan, not to take anything away from Martha's story and her hard work, but here's another person that's been working behind the scenes. She happened to drive down with her parents. They relocated from California, where Megan lives, down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and she basically became a prisoner in her folks' home. I'm sure they didn't mind having her there, but she couldn't get out until she flew back up there. And so we did a couple of coaching calls. She used the harmonizer. She had all the anxiety going to the airport yesterday that Martha spoke about. And so we did a coaching call. I invited her dad to join us on that, because one of the hardest things, if you love somebody who's afraid to fly, is you don't like watching them in pain, but you don't know what to do. And sometimes the things that we do, we tend to smother them or come up with helpful hints, and all it does is irritate the person. So then they get mad at you, and it's even worse. But Megan and her dad made a great team, and this is a flight literally from yesterday, and their success getting back. So you can do this. Any of you out there, you can do this. And we really, really, really encourage you to do that. So, Eric, or Dieter, I'm sorry.
Dieter has disabled my start video.
Well, if you can't get it back, here's what I'll say. To those people that asked about the preliminary report that came out about the Brazil flight, we're gonna address that in detail next week on Tuesday at the crew edition. Captain Eric will be ready to go with all the information, because I know Lauren, you had asked, and Tracy and a couple other people were really interested in hearing our take on that report, and we'll have that for you next Tuesday at 6:30.
Absolutely. Can you hear me anyway?
We can hear you.
So I like that picture anyway. So guys, also while we were talking to our guest Martha, I checked those prices for our Sacramento flight up and back. October 26th. And it's still only $104 each way.
Yep.
So,
and that's pretty much rock bottom for Southwest right now. It's a couple $100. Yeah.
And it's not going to stay that way forever. So
no. Get the tickets first and foremost, because we don't want you to get the night before. Oh, Captain Ron, Eric, it costs $500 now. Yeah, it will. Yeah, there's a rumor that they're out there to make money as an airline. So we want to keep them from getting as much as we can by getting our tickets early. So thanks, Eric.
Sure.
All right. So thanks everybody for yet another great edition of Fearless Flight Live. We really appreciate you tuning in, and keep coming back. Questions, sign up for a 15-minute coaching call. If you haven't ever done that, please do that. It's the first step for so many people. I would say half the people that I'm aware of who go on to defeat this start with a 15-minute coaching call. And so why should you be any different? So come back and do the work and stick with us. We love to support you in any way we can. So thanks, Dieter, once again. Thanks, Eric. And thanks to you all of you out there. We'll see you again next week for another, well, they'll see you next week because they get all the tough questions, all the crashes and stuff in the flight crew edition. And I'll be there next Thursday night. And Eric, as far as we know, Eric will make it and Dieter will make it as well. So we'll be there with you next Thursday night for the monthly 201 live group coaching webinar. So until then, till next week, thanks everybody and have a great week. Bye-bye.
Take it easy, you guys.